Welcome to Enlightened Evolution.
I'm Cay.
And I'm Christina.
We're here to discuss the ebb and flow of our soul's healing and transformation through self-reflection, choosing intentionally, honoring thyself, and following your inner guide.
Thank you for joining this safe space with us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Enlightened Evolution with Cay and Christina. We hope that we find you well today here on this Monday morning. We're here to discuss how addictions affect our relationships when we're codependent with substances. I think the first thing that we need to admit is that we all have our vices, something we're addicted to, and the spectrum that they fall on, whether that be drinking alcohol, eating, working out, too much, smoking, cigarettes, but like marijuana, whether it's sex, porn, shopping, or something more serious like prescription drugs or buying illicit drugs off the street. So, being in relationships when we're addicted to something, I think that they hardly ever work out. And statistically, they probably hardly ever work out, or they're very toxic for as long as they do last. When the way that they start, and not always, but sometimes, what do we do? Hey, you just meet somebody. Hey, you want to go have a drink with me sometime? So I think a lot of times we build relationships off alcohol. A lot of the times, it it eases us up. It makes us feel more comfortable. And it's just a way to kind of break the ice with people. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily always a bad thing, but it is something that the substance that is used to make us feel better while we're building that relationship. In the past, I would bond with partners personally over alcohol. It would start by, hey, let's go out and have a drink. What else are we going to do? Or if you're a broke college kid or something and you just need to go and, have a couple drinks and get to know each other. And it, when you start using it in intimate moments, it enhances experiences. And then you start to use it as the relationship goes on to cope with emotional disturbances. And I think a lot of times it makes us inconsistent emotionally. And and not to get too deep into the scientific breakdown of what drugs and alcohol do to us or the effect that they have on our brain and our body, but simply put, they release the surge of dopamine well after ingested. They make you feel the calm, comfortable, happy, sometimes euphoric. And then when we tend to reach the peak of that and our dopamine can no longer release anymore, we start to crash. And when we start to crash, we start to feel the depression, the anxiety, irritability much easier. When we get in deeper into any relationship, whether that's sober or not sober, on substances or not, we're going to start to trigger each other's unhealed wounds, unpacking our own trauma, and the effects the substances have on us intensifies our emotions based on the peak or the withdrawal that substance is creating in our body during that time. And it's like I just mentioned it's extremely difficult to stay consistently regulated emotionally while handling conflict and trying to communicate effectively while battling substance abuse with a partner. I don't know, I've experienced this in relationships personally, and it would be very high highs and very low lows. Definitely an emotional roller coaster from myself and the other party. Have you Is there anything you've experienced like this or you'd like to add so far, my dear? How are you doing today? I didn't even ask you how you were today. Just
I'm great.
jumped right into that intense
we're,
bullshit. Sorry.
we're diving deep today. I'm good. I'm good. And I've been in relationships with people that have addictions. And I definitely have started relationships with substances, like you mentioned, like, let's go get a drink, let's smoke, those types
Mhm.
of things, to where I really feel like it clouded my judgment of that person. And had I
Yes.
been fully sober, I may have had a different idea of who that person was.
Yeah,
What's
for
your
sure.
experience been in this?
Definitely the same, and also, it's like, is that the only thing that we have in common?
Right.
Is just going out to be able to I mean, if you are a drinking buddy, let's just be a drinking buddy, what why do we need to go dive headfirst into a
Win.
committed relationship? And so and also, and like I said, may not even be a bad thing. You're not an alcoholic, they're not an alcoholic, go out and share a couple drinks together. I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that this is black or white or, anything like that. But I do think that if you develop that pattern early on in a relationship where you're using substances together to enhance your relationship or to feel comfortable with somebody, if you can't feel comfortable with somebody without being intoxicated, I think that's something that you need to reflect on. And I wish I would have been better at doing that in the past.
Same.
Yeah. I I think that when I'm with somebody, I feel like moments that I have been in relationships where we're, drinking together like every day, even if it's like a couple drinks or smoking marijuana, it's like I would go through these phases. Like I would have such an affinity for this person. I would feel so in love. And and then I would have moments where I didn't really feel in love at all. And then I would the same thing with them. I would feel like some days they would just love me so much, and other days it's like I'm paranoid that they don't love me anymore, and I feel like when we would come back together and have a couple drinks together, smoke a joint together or something, then we feel okay again and we feel good again. And if you do enjoy drinking and smoking with your partner and you don't have these, toxic effects from these substances, like then that's great. But if you feel like you have to use these substances to cope in a relationship, is that the type of relationship you want to be in? I have often wondered when we become bonded with someone while we're addicted to something, we suffer from substance abuse. Are these feelings synthetic that we're developing, or do we just love them because we're chasing that dopamine from these substances? What do you
Right.
think? Even with there I mean, even being in relationships, being, like, addicted to the sex of it, like, you really don't have anything you're compatible about, except you have this, like, desire and just, like, animalistic, lustful need for them, and they have that for
Yes.
you, and so, like, if you I don't know, I've definitely experienced that too, like, that form of addiction too.
Yes. I have unknowingly that's the way I've approached a lot of relationships
Mhm,
is hot and heavy, lots of sex at the beginning to try to build a bond, but it's really a false bond. You're trying to get this intimacy from this person, and that was the only way I knew how to build that at that time.
mhm.
I'm not a religious person. I don't think you have to wait till marriage to have sex. I kinda think that that's a bad idea.
Yeah, same.
But I do think it's really important to refrain from substances. I'm not saying, like, having a glass of wine at dinner, but refrain from those things that are gonna cloud your judgment, sex, substances, during the beginning of that relationship, or use them very sparingly so that you can really be clear on who you're connecting with and if you're actually connecting or if it's clouded by other things.
Absolutely. After a lot of self-reflection, I know I enjoy drinking. I enjoy smoking, especially sharing these things with people. It's a social thing for sure.
Yeah.
I know that I also know 100% that when I'm with somebody and they have a certain level of substance abuse, that I become like this little chameleon and I will inherit sometimes the substance that they enjoy to do. And it's something that we'll start sharing together. It's never been successful for me whatsoever. I've never had an emotionally safe relationship being with somebody where we shared a substance. I know that, right now I'm choosing to be 100% sober, and I'm not saying that I'll never go back, to Italy again and have a glass of wine. Yeah, I will. I'll
That sounds
probably
wonderful.
Yeah, it does. I'll probably do that again, but I'm just being more mindful moving forward. Right now at this time in my life, being sober, you vibrate higher, more vitality, you have increased energy, and I don't ever wanna build a relationship again where there's gonna be substances and have my judgment clouded. I just won't do that. I think also, do you feel like your intuition is increased when you're sober? I feel like since I've been sober, my intuition is just on point much more.
100%. And I don't know how you would explain it. I've gotten sober as far as alcohol within the last year, not because it was ever an issue for me, but because of going through a spiritual awakening. And basically, it just came to the point where it felt like my body was rejecting alcohol. I would have
Mhm.
one drink and I would feel horrible. I would be nauseous, have acid reflux, have a horrible headache. And it just came down to the point where I was like, I want to feel good. And so I just stopped drinking, and it is so hard to, especially when you have friends that, encourage it, or my partner's been great. He's like, "If you don't wanna drink, don't drink." But for me, it wasn't because there was an addiction, so it wasn't like, "Oh, I can't be around people that are drinking." But there was this annoyance of even, like, work get-togethers, "Oh, let's go to the winery." "Okay, cool. Well, I'll have some water."
Mhm.
The wineries are beautiful, but, like, why does community always need to be around substance use? And I would go places and not drink, and everyone else would be drinking, and they would be like, "Are you pregnant? Why are you not drinking?" When I tell you, keep that shit to yourself. Don't ask somebody why they're not using a substance. It's none of
Right.
your damn business. If
Right.
I'm pregnant, it's none of your business. If I'm an alcoholic and I'm in recovery, it's none of your business. I just didn't wanna drink because I didn't wanna feel bad, and I would say that to people, and they just could not wrap their brain around it of, "What do
Mhm.
you mean?" Because a lot of people do feel good, and it's not like everyone feels the way I felt. I think it's a combination of my body just aging, and also, like you mentioned, I love the way I feel when I'm sober. I love feeling this connection with my higher self. My intuition is so much higher.
Yeah.
And substances, they've never been a thing for me, and I'm very surprised. I've used many, a few different substances, but when I get that lack of control, I'm addicted to control. That my
Mhm.
therapist can tell you. That is my addiction. And so when substances remove that from me, I don't like it. So it's just not been much of a thing for me.
Yeah. Outside of be when I'm it's gosh, I really only struggle with it while I'm in relationships. And when I end the relationship, I'm like, "Okay, I can get back to working out again. I can get back to just being sober and having my routine again and feeling great again." And you're right, it is really hard to find the same people with the same mindset that are just like, I don't like to drink because I don't like to drink. Because it's really hasn't been difficult or a struggle for me to stop doing it. It's almost a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I came out and saw you in October, it was really nice. I don't That wasn't even, like, a conversation we had before I came out there of, like, "Let's go have a drink,"
I
or
didn't
"Let's do this."
know. Yeah.
No, I didn't know either that you just stopped doing it. I think we had a couple conversations, I always knew you weren't, like, super big drinker from the times that we did hang out. But when I came there and I think we got, like, these, I don't know, it was, like, virgin
Mocktails.
mocktails, yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that was really nice. I'm like, "Oh, it's so nice to share a sober moment with somebody, and we don't need a substance to just live life and feel good." And
Yeah,
so
and there
it's
isn't that judgment there of, "Why aren't you drinking?" It almost felt like when I was with my other friends, like, they needed you to drink to feel okay about what they were doing. And I'm
Yes.
100% not bashing drinking. If you do it in a responsible way, my husband drinks, but you don't need to push it on anybody else.
No, you sure don't. And like I said, I'm sure I will probably have another drink sometime again in my life, but just for right now, it's not something that it's just something that I'm avoiding right now and just to feel better. What else was I going to say to you? Oh, so I do think that when we're in those relationships, like in the moment, this alcohol is like happy hours fun, it's exciting, it's like instant gratification. And I think that the quality of time that you have is like it's much more of a quality of time you have waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning with somebody, going for a walk with them, being sober. Like it's more sustainable. Like last night must have been like I'm sure it was super fun, getting drunk, going dancing. But I think that overall, like being in a sober relationship is more sustainable. It's more fulfilling. You're more of on an even keel emotionally with people. And what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, definitely. I feel like I'm more in control of my own emotions and my responses to things when I'm not
Mhm.
using substances. I think those have always heightened conflict in relationships. And just like it heightens pleasure, it also can
Yeah.
heighten conflict as well.
Yeah. I'm not gonna
So,
lie.
if
Go ahead.
someone's in a relationship with someone that is in active addiction, what are some things they could do, or maybe a self-survey of does this relationship really resonate with me? It's not always that the relationship needs to end, but I think there
Right.
definitely needs to be conversation if it's
Yeah,
affecting your relationship.
I agree with that. I think that even in my last relationship, I this is something that I was became very aware of. I didn't wanna feel the way that I because if I choose to use substances, it's more of like a social fun thing, one-time thing. I'm not, gonna do this again for a long time. But when it started becoming an everyday thing, it's like, "Okay, I don't want to stop. I wanna stop doing this." Is your partner supportive of it? I would, have that conversation with them. "Hey, do you think that maybe we're overindulging a little bit too much? How do you feel about us weaning down on what we're doing? Is that an option for you? How do you feel about that? Do you feel comfortable where you at?" And then you have to ask yourself, well, if this person doesn't stop using their substances, do you have the willpower and the strength to do that on your own, being surrounded by it every day? And most of us don't. You've already built this relationship with this person using these substances. You already know how it's going to go. Every single day they're going to continue to use. Are you just going to, that was how you shared your quality time together. So I think that will probably become an issue unless unless you're fully supportive of them continuing to use the substance and they're fully supportive of you of not using it anymore. And I think that what people may find in that situation is that, okay, you're putting yourself in a position in a mental mindset that's like, okay, I want to evolve and grow from where I am right now. And I no longer want to use this substance every single day for whatever reason. And am I going to continue to choose these people in my life that do use these substances? And a lot of the times the answer is no, I'm not going to continue to surround myself by these people because I don't have I mean it's natural human behavior to adapt to our surroundings and whether
Yeah.
those are positive or negative surroundings. So I think that you have to ask yourself those questions. And and if your partner is like, "Hey, yeah, I agree with you. I want a lifestyle change." Then heck yeah, that's great. Maybe if you're like an everyday drinker after work, you guys share a couple cocktails to dinner, why don't you just do that on the weekends instead? Start there.
Right. Don't just Cold turkey right away.
Yeah. Yeah, because cold turkey sometimes works for some people, but doesn't work for other people, like, you don't have to do that, and, of course, if
Yeah,
y this is, like, more of a serious situation where y the it's, like, heavy, prescription drugs, street drugs, something super heavy like that,
that you could
I
withdraw from.
yeah, that you can withdraw from. I know that you can die if you withdrawing from alcohol. There's a lot of people I've
Yep.
taken care of that have alcohol withdrawal. You need medical attention for that. Go to the hospital. You need to
Yes,
100%
absolutely.
have you need to be in a hospital to withdraw from alcohol if you're an everyday. I'm not talking about like 2 beers a night. I'm talking like a case of beer a night, a fifth a day. If you're an everyday drinker like that, you need to go to the hospital because going through withdrawals is very hard. I would talk to a therapist about it, and they can set you up with some resources where you can either, have a day program treatment centers where
Yes.
you can
Yep.
get other medications to help you withdraw from more serious drugs. I know there's resources for that. You can always call 211 for any type of resource in the United States for anything. They can set you up with somebody in your area. Because it's hard. Addiction's hard. We're all addicted to something, I think. And so
Yeah, definitely. I know when you told me we were gonna talk about this, I really had to do some self-reflection because I was like, substances have never really been my thing, but I have other addictions. I've been, like I said, addicted to control, addicted to stress. So,
oh,
when there
yes.
wasn't stress in my life, I would create stress
Drama.
just to stay on par with that.
Mhm.
I definitely think I've had shopping addictions. I've
Oh, yes.
had, food addictions as well. Addicted to sugar right here.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Same. Yeah, and oh my gosh, I think shopping because we all use these substances to cope with something, right? Even if it's like meeting
Right.
somebody new, I'm gonna use this substance to cope with my anxiety, to be social. And
Yep.
I am like, "Oh my gosh, I'm having a bad day, and I deserve to feel good, so I deserve to go spend $500 at TJ Maxx right now to feel better." I
Yeah,
That's
I
a
do that
problem.
often. It
I
is a
but
problem.
me too, and it's a problem, and that relationship is only within myself. So
Yep.
and
There's
that's
no one to
something.
blame but me.
Yeah, right, and that's something that you can share with your friendships too.
Yes.
We deserve shopping. Okay, well, can you limit yourself? I'm only spending $100 today, which everyone has their own different budgets, but
Yeah.
the today's day and age, $100 isn't that much if you're doing a shopping girls day and so
Yeah,
limit yourself. One outfit, that's it.
definitely. And something will happen, and then I, like, snowball with it. Like, our dress code changed at work, so I was like, "Oh, well, I have to go shopping and just buy everything that I see that I like because I have to have this for work." But also, I'm actually coping with the fact that I no longer have a choice of what I get to wear to work.
Mhm. That's yes, right. So you used it as an excuse to just
Right.
feed your addiction. Or the seasons change, and now I'm doing this I find myself doing this, like, especially like, my son, boys, they're in and out, they don't wanna be shopping with you for hours, and usually they don't, so he's easy, but my daughter, it's like, "Oh, honey, it's springtime, we gotta go get you some spring and summer clothes." Now I'm like I'm being trying to be really mindful of imposing that mindset on my daughter as well,
Yeah. And
because
I
any
definitely learned mine from my mom.
Yeah,
It
oh, me
was whenever she was down, it was, "Okay, let's go shopping and we're gonna feel better."
Yeah, yeah, same, or yeah, we've having a bad day, and it was also this is a hard one too. What I was about to say was using it for a reward, which that's not necessarily a bad thing to use shopping as a reward. I guess you could probably take that as a yes or a
I think it's
no.
where you disregard the lack of consequences. So is this gonna
Mhm.
put you into credit card debt that you're not it's gonna be really hard to come out of? Is this gonna make you not be able to pay your bills? What are the consequences of those actions?
Yeah. At what level are you a hoarder? I have 2. and a half closet's full of clothes, 2, you know, drawer sets, armoires, and I love them all, and I purge them all the
Yeah,
time too. So and that's another thing, like, "Oh, okay, I deserve to go shopping because I purged 5 bags today. I'm gonna
I do
reward
that too.
myself." Yeah.
I've
So
got all these garbage bags full of clothes I'm gonna take and donate, and I gotta fill those hangers back up.
that's right. So, I think it's just being mindful of who you
Why we're
are.
doing the things we're doing.
Yeah, why we're doing the things that we're doing, the instant gratification of it, how you feel in relationships. And I'd like to add, which I'm sure I'll say this in another episode, and maybe I've said it before, but if you need to ease your anxiety with a substance in someone else's energy, reflect on that. Why don't you feel safe in their energy sober? Is it because you just can't manage your anxiety? Or is it because there's actually something your intuition is telling you about this person?
And I
So,
think a lot of times you just touched on something. We Our intuition is trying to tell us something, and then we use those substances to dull down our intuition because we don't wanna hear that message right now.
no, we don't. We want instant gratification. So, it's okay to be I think nowadays I'm okay with choosing solitude with a little sprinkle of loneliness these days versus getting myself back into those situations where you just know they're going to evolve into something that's just not good for anybody. I think we touched on quite a bit. Is there anything else you'd like to add for these subjects today? Thank you for doing this subject with me. It's something that I've dealt with quite a few times, so I do appreciate it. I know a lot of people deal with this quite a bit, building relationships on substance abuse, so it's just something I message I wanted people to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna touch a lot of people, and I think the biggest thing you can do in these situations is just kinda step back and kinda self-reflect, and it's so hard to be self-aware, but just think of, like, are we covering up something bigger? Is there an issue here? Is there something we need to address without these addictions in the way?
Yes. Well, I think that covers everything for today. I hope
Thank you guys for
everybody
listening.
Yes.
Hope you have a great week, and you'll join us next week for our next topic.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.